that started 25 years ago believes that its best is yet to come.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. And even when I saw Young Turks 25 years, I told you the same thing. I said, my God, we've come a long way. And when you look back, I mean, it doesn't feel like 25. I think life in the internet industry is life in the fast lane. Till 6 months before the IPO, we weren't even planning an IPO. It was Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who was an independent on our board,
Who said IPO?
who told us on a January board meeting that, guys, you are ready to IPO. We said, what are you talking about? He's saying, yeah, 3 years ago we were at the same level and you guys are growing faster.
What's the most unusual celebration case that you've seen?
I believe they're now breakup and turning single again
What?
parties.
Breakup and turning single again
Again,
parties?
their parties and get-togethers. like, listen, now guess what? We're all single, we party. But all kinds of stuff is happening,
Yeah.
as we know. Like proposal economy is happening. Yeah, people now, youngsters are choosing exotic locations to go make a proposal, and they actually travel.
So for the last few quarters, we see our frequent travelers are actually taking more trips than they were ever before, right? It's a combination of short-term vacations, and
Yeah.
we've seen trends like
The YOLO phenomena is here to stay.
and Gen Z, and it's real, and Gen Z.
"25 years ago, a young man called Deep Kalra decided that he wanted to get into the online travel business. 25 years later, MakeMyTrip is one of India's leading travel companies and has seen a record-breaking 23-24. Here's the MakeMyTrip story over the last 25 years in numbers. 80 million plus lifetime transacted customers, 490 million plus app downloads, 519 million shopper visits. That tells you of the story of MakeMyTrip over the last 25 years. In 2010, they decided to list on the Nasdaq. They've seen a flurry of acquisitions through the course of their journey, and there's been plenty of learnings, plenty of setbacks, but it's been an exhilarating ride. Joining us now to talk about the story, the last 25 years, but more importantly, the next 25 is Deep Kalra and Rajesh Magow. Deep, Rajesh, many thanks for joining us. Deep, let me go back 25 years. So much has changed, so many low points in the course of your journey. On many occasions, it was almost a question of will you be able to make it through? But you have, and you survived, and you're here to tell the tale.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. And even when I saw Young Turks 25 years, I told you the same thing. I said, my God, we've come a long way. And when you look back, I mean, it doesn't feel like 25. I think life in the internet industry is life in the fast lane. So it moves so fast. I mean, you can look back, and typically, I think somehow it's waves of five years for us.
Yeah.
It's been that kind of story. So first 5 years were all about, I think, just survival.
Yeah.
And making sure that we live to see another day. At least 3 of those 5 years were really dark, but when I look back, the best years, because that's when really a germ of an idea became proof of concept, became a business, started making money. The team was together, and there was a shared common passion, dream, and then it actually was happening despite all the odds. So I think that was a great period. And 2005 to 2010 was just this ferocious run to IPO.
Yeah.
And till 6 months before the IPO, we weren't even planning an IPO. It was Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who was an independent on our board,
Who said IPO?
who told us on a January board meeting that, guys, you are ready to IPO. We said, what are you talking about? He's saying, yeah, 3 years ago we were at the same level and you guys are growing faster. You were growing 50%. You should IPO.
And this is a man who didn't know whether the Nasdaq were in Patparganj or in
Well,
New
this
York.
is a man who knew a lot actually and still knows, but he told us and we took it very seriously. We were surprised at the meeting. Rajesh was CFO then, and we put our heads together and he called a meeting. And I think for the next 6 months, he and the auditors and the lawyers, they just pitched tent in office. And in 6 months, we had IPO'd. August 2010, we IPO'd on Nasdaq, being one of the first internet companies from India to IPO there, first travel company from India to IPO there. And it was great. And then I think from 10 to probably right up to COVID was overall a really good run. Some hiccups, of course, when Kingfisher went down, it kind of challenged the whole domestic air industry. We were very domestic air dependent. We started building out a hotel business in right earnest. But it was a pretty good run till then. We had a huge acquisition. We acquired Go Ibibo and Redbus at that time. Learned a lot about how to assimilate large acquisitions, and then COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you the short version. And I think COVID all over again was truly, I won't say near death for the company, but it was a complete reset because our business went down. We reported a quarter, we were 96% down on revenues. And it was crazy because, no one, this was national lockdown, of course. And to come back after that, to restructure cost base as much as you can. Obviously, COVID had to lift, but the way travel has come back, we all know.
Yes.
Now, you can't get a room, you can't get a seat, everything is double the price. But people have, I think, in their minds have said, yeah, like, listen, if I have a bucket list, I'm going to tick it off now. I think we as a company came back stronger because we went about restructuring cost in a very serious way. Like we said, okay, fixed cost, wherever we can reduce, we should. Some of the toughest decisions ever were taken, which is, yes, we had to let go of almost 10% staff, which was very hard. Have tried to take many of them back as things have got better, but I think we came out much stronger, definitely stronger than industry. And as crazy as it sounds, I think our last year has definitely, by all measures, been our best year ever. Over the last few years, we've seen growth and profitability both come together, the holy grail of the internet world.
Yeah.
We probably, I think that's what a couple of VCs had reported, we probably make more EBIT, more profits than any other internet company in India, which is a great, it feels really good. And it's a biggish company now. So when you look at the number of people and all, it's a little scary. But, knock on wood, couldn't have asked for a better 25-year script.
And an appropriate sort of 25-year gift is the fact that as you said, you've reported your best numbers ever, 46 million in quarterly profit. That's your best performance, $11 billion in market capitalization. So it's been quite a run. But Rajesh, before I get to the numbers, I want to actually talk about how you and Deep got started, your exit, and then your return to Make My Trip, because that's also an incredible story. And it's really part of what keeps Make My Trip going.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You should share that.
No, I know, and that's a very, very interesting story, and I guess Deep likes to put it always saying maybe it was destined to be like that. So here it is, the way it has started. So I joined, and Deep was looking for a founding team at that point in time. It is Deep's idea. Deep set it up in 2000, and I approached him. We had a meeting, really long meeting, and I think I was in that meeting decided that Deep and I should work together. I should rather work with Deep, because the way the whole meeting happened, the way the whole conversation happened. One, of course, the new age startup idea was an interesting idea, and I was getting ready to get into a new age startup because I had the corporate experience behind me. I had worked with AppTech for about 5 years. After that, there was actually a NatTech startup that I worked for about a year. So it was a bit of a dry run for me just to get into like a full-fledged sort of startup. I was getting sort of ready for that. So those two things happened. But here's the most interesting part that happened. So, after I said, yes, I'm ready to come and work with you, and Deep explained it to me, Make My Trip, here's the idea, and we've raised some money. We've got some money. We've got like $1 million already, and we'll get another tranche of another $1 million because there was the $2 million that was raised.
Which I promise you was our promise from our VC.
Yeah, it was the promise from the VC.
They backed out.
And then it so happened 1 month down the line, the circumstances changed, and Deep called me once, and I remember I was in the car, I was driving, I parked my car near the Taj Hotel. I think I was just coming from the work. And Deep said, in all his honesty and transparency, he said, I have to share an update with you. I said, what's happening? So he said, I told you that there's going to be some more money coming in because the developments had happened by then. And they're backing out and we won't get that money. I just wanted to let you know. And I don't know whether you've quit from your previous job or not, But it is only fair for me to share this update because this is the new development. This is very different from what we had spoken about. And the second thing is, so therefore I wanted to actually give you an opportunity. So you think about it. I wanted to let you know this information. And to be honest, and I told that to Deep at that point in time, because it actually further sealed it for me. And I'm saying, here's the man who's actually coming back, who would have cared. I see Rajesh has just agreed to join and he's coming on board and joining. Who would have cared to call and said, here's the development, we may not have money. Because when I actually joined, Deep was in the US trying to actually look for more money. And we had only 1 month money, like literally 1 month money at that point in time. And I said to Deep, I said, don't worry about it. I have actually quit already. But even if I had not, I had made up my mind. And, we'll sink or swim together.
I remember those words so clearly.
Yeah.
We'll sink or
He
swim
said,
together.
we'll sink or swim together.
Yeah. So, because I was ready for it. I mean, so it was just a matter of, and also it's just a matter of just clicking sometimes, right? So you like a particular person and saying, well, we'll figure something out, right? I mean, we go there because that is what we have to. In any case, it was supposed to be 1 million is nothing, right? I mean, it just gets you going.
Yeah.
And at
But
that time, it was 48 rupees.
Yeah.
So 1 million was actually much less. It was barely 5 crores then.
Yeah,
But
but small money, right? I mean, you're not going to build long-term sustainable business with that small money. So in any case, it was going to be first job that I had was to start looking for more money. So anyway, this is how it started. And then, because before we started, really started, we realized that India wasn't really ready. Right. So then not only the money was the issue, but the other development that happened, SARS happened, and the product market fit was not there. India's internet ecosystem did not exist at that point in time. So we were definitely pre-sunrise at that point in time. So then we was wondering about, what to do. So I think the better sense prevailed and we said, I don't think we can launch in India, so that pullback happened. And then the niche
Switched
was
to the
sort of
NRI
invented,
audience,
the NRI audience.
Yeah.
And then we started, and then e-bookers from UK, and that's the other part, and that's why when I went on the other side and came back later on, and that e-bookers actually deal happened because of the circumstances, because they came in and they said that they wanted to set up an India unit, so they were looking for management team, they're looking for domain expertise, and they found that in us,
ready-made unit.
and ready-made unit, right? So so few people. So Deep and I were doing, sort of
both
joint
jobs
role for a while, and then I moved on the other side, and we got some money out of it.
Yeah.
And MakeMyTrip just got stock money and cash. It was a cash and stock deal that happened.
It was our IV solution.
It was an IV
We
solution.
were on life support.
Yeah.
And so we had that arrangement and that lesson, someone needed to be there. They wanted, Dinesh Tameja wanted both of us there. And I said, that's really hard because MakeMyTrip's my baby.
Yeah.
But Rajesh will run it and I'll also be overseeing and all of that jazz. But that was our arrangement that, we needed, so it was a build, operate, transfer. We got fees, which kept our fires burning. And I think the big lesson there is that you pretty much do anything and everything.
Whatever it
with
takes.
whatever it takes within the realm of obviously, staying honest and staying straight. If you believe in something, you find a way. And that's when I look back and I tell young entrepreneurs even today, just don't give up too early.
What you said, and I want to get both of you to comment on that. You said, sometimes people give up too early, and your advice to entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who are watching this program at this point in time is don't give up too early. But what does it take to find that kind of resilience, to build the courage, to have the conviction to say, I'm on life support, but I ain't giving up?
Yeah. I think it's a couple of things, and now I've thought about this a lot because all hindsight is obviously 2020. I think the first is complete conviction in your idea, what you're trying to do, not necessarily how you're trying to do it. You can be flexible on the how because technologies change, things change, but what you're building, what this solution, is it indeed best in class? Best in India today, best in world tomorrow? Is it something where you can take on anyone because you've got, a great product, because your back-end technology is smarter, faster, more efficient, because you've found a customer insight which no one else knows. So you have to have conviction in that. if you're iffy about it and you're like, yeah, maybe whatever sort of, then it's not for you. The second ingredient is definitely core team. Whether they're co-founders or their founding team doesn't really matter. These are people who've got to share your vision and your belief and actually add to it by actually questioning and debating and making that thing sharper and better, saying, okay, listen, this is our proposition, this is what I thought, but I have these 2-3 people around me who are constantly questioning and maybe making that proposition even sharper, but also believe. And the third is, while the numbers will tell you where you're going. So we are definitely creatures of numbers, both Rajesh, me. At the end of the day, in numbers we trust, because it'll tell you, where are your conversion metrics going, your whole funnel, is it getting healthier, is it getting better at a micro level? Even incremental changes on a week by week basis means you're moving in the right direction. You just have to bridge a gap. And the X factor is, I think that's the gut. That's what an entrepreneur will know. It's your gut instinct. Listen, isme abhi kuch hai. Let's not give up right now. Let's push it a bit more.
And I want to, get you to tell us through some of those hard moments, and there's been plenty, as Deep has just spoken to us about. What makes you decide, okay, as you said, in some cases you feel thoda aur baki hai, let's give it another shot. But in some cases you probably think that we've done enough, we need to pull back. The decision to pull back, if you can give us some examples of when you've had to do that and when you believe that that's the right time or the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll tell you one or two examples of that. But before I do that, there is one more thing that I wanted to add to what Deep was saying. Just about, how do you sort of build resilience, or how do you sort of go through the whole process? I think before you actually jump and start your business or become an entrepreneur, I think it's also about making that choice very seriously, because it's not a non-serious thing.
And it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. It's not a fashionable thing to do. There are millions of choices today that you have. But if you are just getting carried away because your friend was just doing a startup and I have to do it and he created X amount of wealth, and if that is the motivation...
And it's the 100th unicorn or the 101st unicorn.
Exactly. If that is the motivation, don't do it. Because unless you really take that process seriously, because I think that is where the conviction, the journey of the conviction actually starts from there, if you ask me. Because then you have thought through that there is going to be a really long journey.
I think that's just a phenomenal point. You're so right about this whole, mindset saying, I'm not getting in because I'm not chasing just big bucks to make money. You can probably, if you do the risk reward curve, you look at the math, you're better off probably if you have a good job, you can keep going, you'll make probably, the chances are you'll do better.
No, but in 2000, when you actually decided to start up, and you had a good job, St. Stephen's, IIM Ahmedabad,
good college.
Good college, yes, I agree, good college.
Yeah.
Cushy corporate job.
I quit G Capital and he quit a good job. Actually, most of our people were doing well.
But back then, did you think that, did you have the marathon mentality back then?
No, I'd be lying if I said that. The reason I actually wanted to make what we call Make My Trip today, an online travel platform or an online stock broking platform, was the other idea. But was because I didn't see a large company being able to really crack the internet. So for me, the pull was the internet was happening and I wanted to build something on the internet. Oh, and by the way, that means I have to be an entrepreneur. But it changed as one went along. And I think one just grows into it. And you either like this and you're quite comfortable giving up some stuff and sacrifices on the monetary side. So it's deferred gratification too, which may never come, but there's great satisfaction.
You're talking about deferred gratification. We're living in an era where everything is YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, 10-minute delivery. I mean, what are we talking about? The fulfillment expectation has changed completely. As someone who's starting up today, this idea of deferred gratification that Deep is talking about, Rajesh, do you believe that, it's going to resonate?
Yeah, but before that, I think we should talk about the pulling back
pulling
example
back as well,
because that's also very, very important as part of the entrepreneurial journey. So I'll give you one very interesting example. We went IPO on the back of flights business only, and that was in 2010. We were like $40 million top line there, looking at about 60 million. 90% of our business was flight business only. and maybe the habit changing happened changed fast, and we got to that kind of scale in that flight business. But that flight business was a low margin business, and it was not necessarily going to be the only product or service that we would offer, right? So as part of our strategy, it was very clear that we had to build other businesses. Now, one of those businesses happened to be hotel business, the hotel booking business. And there, the journey, actually the hardest business for us to actually build over the years, and which took the longest, was actually the hotel business.
Really? Why?
Yeah. And the reason for that was landscape. It wasn't one unidimensional product, and there were multiple problems there. One was the supply side landscape was hugely fragmented.
Yes.
We didn't have, unlike US, you don't have chains here. Even today, there are about 20% of the inventory is chain hotels, right? So 80% is all fragmented supply, and there was hardly any technology on that side. Like it was not digitized. None of that was there at that point in time. And the other even bigger problem was the consumer habit. Now, in India, perhaps the only country where people would actually go to the hill station, walk to the 3 or 4 hotels, and then decide which one to book. Like literally physically see that. So now both sides, and we thought because internet gives you reach, and then start investing, and we had, put together some sort of a product, or maybe a 1.0 product for hotels, went ballistic on marketing and stuff like that, and we realized nothing was happening. Right? So we had to pull back, and we said, no, we are not ready. Right? And this started, we've been trying to build hotel business actually even prior to IPO around 2009, because, when we were going to the market in the US, especially US, and it was an evolved market, and they all knew that, on the back of flight business, it's not going to be the OTA that we would like. It has to have more, sort of at least lot more and line of sight to building hotel business and the other businesses. So we started building that, but India wasn't really ready. It was really, really hard for us to build. So the learning there was that you don't necessarily need to get carried away just because internet gives you inherent reach, right? So, and therefore just to go ahead and over-invest in marketing dollars, like, try to get customers in. You'll get traffic, but, they would not convert. What's the point? Right? So then go back to the drawing board, invest in the right areas. So we had to do huge amount of heavy lifting on the partner ecosystem.
Correct.
To give them, to build technology for them, to get the inventory on our platform, brick by brick, literally, have had, feet on the ground to actually go and sort of educate, meet, contract hotels, literally. Like, that was the way internet company, but if there is one business development feet on ground workforce that we have is actually hotel business development, right? Even till today, and which has become the moat, right? Has become the real differentiator. So I think that's a good example of where to stop and not necessarily end up investing in the wrong areas.
As we look at what's happening in the industry today, different sectors, not just travel, but outside of that as well, do you believe that consolidation is going to force the sanity that Rajesh was talking about? That's exactly why the GoIbibo Make My Trip deal happened, because you were being forced to burn through cash because that is what the competition was doing at that point in time. So buying out competition, consolidation, do you believe that is where we're at in many sectors at this point in time in the internet business in India?
It's a great question. And I don't think it's a silver bullet and maybe the only solution. It's case to case. So Rajesh called it out very well that, listen, a private company funded 100% by Naspers, now Prosus, with one playbook. They were very clear, and it worked out for them that, listen, we will spend a lot of money, but we'll force the hand of the market leader to either buy us out, or buy us out, basically.
You did.
That was their game plan. Yeah. So we paid a price, and probably it worked out well for them. They were shareholders of ours for a while, and very canny, very, very smart shareholders. But I think it's in sector to sector. So now if you look at some of our sectors, it's a duopoly by and large, but you have both listed companies, whether in India or overseas. Then you have the fiscal prudence or the discipline that Rajesh mentioned. So then you are competing in a very smart manner, different manner. And it's happening world over. Why the internet? Look offline. Look at traditional businesses. So if you look at, soft drink beverages, we've had a duopoly forever in most markets. You'll have some local player, but by and large.
Airlines in India is a duopoly.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
What do you mean kind of, sort of, isn't it?
No, there are 4 good airline companies in India. But yeah, I think, obviously Indigo right now is just doing phenomenally well, and they're a great airline. But I do believe Air India will eventually kind of get their act together and also catch up. And then I think Akasa has some very, very good building blocks. SpiceJet is clearly the fighter. If there's resilience in the airline sector, then that's SpiceJet. So I guess that is a tough market. But in markets, in the e-com sector, if you look at food delivery, kind of duopoly, pretty much controlling that. If you look at cab hailing, kind of duopoly again. So I think in some cases, and that's where also there's a whole monopolistic angle and everything else. But that's not the only answer. So again, it just depends in which stage of evolution of that market you're in. If it's a mature market already, then you'll compete. But I think the key point what Rajesh was making is, if your unit economics are not getting better as on a trend basis, then you're never going to build a real business. Then it's just a question of how much money do you have to burn. I think that era by and large is over. I think it's over
because the free cash is over.
Yeah, also businesses have reached that scale. Now you could have waves where people will say, now guess what, we're going to invest a lot in AI, we're going to do models. That's people investing in building models, which sadly is not really happening in India. It's happening largely in the US and China. That is research spend which is going on. But you'll have crazy valuations, but I see a lot more sanity in the markets today, and which is good. I also see much savvier and smarter entrepreneurs today. I think the new crop of entrepreneurs is definitely smarter and savvier than we were.
Well, I think they've had your experience to learn from, and the market has evolved and matured and has matured as well.
Correct.
But Rajesh, we're talking about the choices made over the last 25 years, but let's talk about the road ahead as well. I mean, the market has changed. The competitive landscape is different. Technology is completely different. The Indian consumer is far more savvy, does have a little bit more discretionary income, to play with at this point in time. What do the next 25 years look like? When you say the best is yet to come, capture that for me.
Next 25 years for all businesses, including us, and I'll tell you specifically what is happening for travel as well, is going to be driven by these fundamental macro story that India's outlook is, as you can see from all these matrices. Now, so what does it mean for, let's say, travel businesses specifically? And there, what is also happening, and maybe it is thanks to COVID, what happened, because, people saw those difficult times from very, very close, right?
Yeah.
If you really look at any surveys, and by the way, a global phenomena. So if you ask a question, and we've looked at many of them, if you ask a question, where would you want to spend your, lion's share of your disposable income at your disposal? And the travel is right up there. And then the next one is the entertainment and the experience and so on. The possessions are going down. The material possessions in terms of all the gadgets and the products are actually going down. So people want to spend more money.
So behavior reset.
The behavior reset is happening, right? So the consumer habit is changing behaviors. And we see that from our own data for the last few quarters, we see our frequent travelers are actually taking more trips than they were ever before. Right? It's a combination of short-term vacations, and we've seen trends like...
So the YOLO phenomena is here to stay.
And it's Gen real. Z, and it's real, and Gen Z.
And renter economy.
And the sharing economy.
Like,
right?
people don't want to really buy. They don't want to own assets. They just want to be light-footed. And this is people like not much younger. I have a brother who's 40 years old, doing very well, lawyer, his own firm, doesn't own a house, doesn't want to own a house. And he's very clear about it. This is a complete waste.
Absolutely. And the new use cases, the celebration use cases, not only the younger population and people who are going to office, they are not necessarily celebrating everything. I mean, you have to have an excuse to celebrate and get into it.
What's the most unusual celebration case that you've seen?
Well, festival is one of them. Or I actually, just unusual one is just a long weekend and I just want to get into it. There's no occasion, there's no anniversary, there's no birthday. Just a get together, have full flexibility of music and late night and party.
I believe they're now breakup and turning single again parties.
Breakup and turning single again
parties. Their parties and get-togethers. Like, listen, now guess what? We're all single, we're party. But all kinds of stuff is happening, as we know. Like proposal economy is happening, People now, youngsters are choosing exotic locations to go make a proposal, and they actually travel to that. Like, this is the kids' generation. Clearly, I know people who have chosen Morocco recently and went and made a proposal in the Sahara Desert, and these are Indians. So they're traveling all over the world to make proposals. So imagine what will happen when the marriage and everything else goes. I think it's become a celebration. Also, everyone's coming to the conclusion, listen, the most valuable thing we have is time. It's the only resource that's finite.
And you can't take it for granted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and live it up,
exactly.
enjoy if you have everything else, then make those moments count and create memories.
Mm.
So I think all of that comes together in the travel
Which is
thing.
great news for your business.
Great news
Yeah,
for us.
absolutely.
Great news. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Um, and all of this is coming together almost like a perfect storm. So
Yeah.
now when you start looking at hindsight from here on, then there will be sometimes you would feel that you should be, maybe 10 years younger. Maybe maybe we would have gone public much later and so on and so forth. But no regrets for the journey that it's been actually pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
Every which way that you sort of look at it, because of the fact that eventually it sort of played out.
Yeah.
And the best part for us has always been at Make My Trip when you see all stakeholders getting benefit of it. Like those are the high points for us.
Yeah.
Like when we IPO'd, the high point was not necessarily achieving that milestone, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it's a project for the organization. It was more that the 80% of the stockholders got benefited out of it, right? Our people.
Yeah, employees.
And employees,
yeah.
absolutely. And, and a lot of those actually didn't even believe in that
What was it?
paper
75,
stock.
80% of the team
80%.
had held
Yeah.
stock. Like we had made sure they'll get some stock.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal for everyone. Everyone wanted to come to New York.
Including those who had taken a pay cut and they...
Oh, they were, for
Absolutely.
them, they were in
Yeah, of
serious,
course.
they were co-founders, they were there.
Yeah.
No, including a guy who was our
Admin.
peon turned runner, never learned computers, but one of the biggest loyalists we have, Arif Khan. And, we had given him stock and he's bought 2 or 3 different houses now in his old town in Noida and this thing from that. And he's still with us. So before we started, you were saying who all's there from the original team. Actually, probably if you look at the first few years, probably even 20. But are there? Yeah, quite a few people are still
And
around.
that's not bad. That's half of the original team.
And the
of
others
40
are all
plus.
very
Yeah.
dear friends
They've
and
been-
still, very, very
And there have been
close.
stories, Shireen, believe it or not. I mean, I remember those moments because when IPO happened, they suddenly started going back to their records and saying, where's that damn paper? That we have?
Where's that piece of paper?
Where's that piece of paper? Because nobody really realized that it had any value. And some of them came back and then we've lost it and can we just get it back, right? So it was really, really good to
because
see.
they probably didn't think that anything
didn't
would
think-
come off it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So tucked away in
No,
some file
luckily
somewhere.
finance had all records
Had all the
and everything's
records.
electronic. But
Yeah.
people were like that. Like I remember them coming saying, "Aapne kuch ek wo diya tha letter nahi mil raha." They were scared. It's gone.
Yeah.
So I said, no, don't worry.
Suddenly
it's
it
still
had
there."
dollar value, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. You're now sitting on a very strong balance sheet, record profitability at this point in time. What does that do in terms of fueling future aspirations? What does it make you want to do with the money that you're sitting on at this point in time? What does it mean in terms of future diversification, the kinds of businesses that you want to get into, ancillary businesses that you haven't yet explored but may want to consider?
No, it's a tremendous moat, firstly, and it gives you the firepower as and when required if there's a good acquisition. I don't think there's any kind that we can't really look at, just stock or stock plus, just cash or cash plus stock. But we're still very mindful about that. We still think that there's a lot to be done in travel. While you can say majority of domestic air tickets are now bought online for sure, and also for bus tickets. But the moment you go to hotels, we are still scratching the surface. So it's still in the low double-digit kind of penetration number. There's a long way to go. And the homestays and villas market has opened up, alternate accommodation. We're in that in a big way. We think that's just going to explode with, again, like Rajesh said, more affluence, means second homes, means more travel. So people's secondary homes, very often you're saying, okay, I'm going to use that home for a month in the year or whatever. Rest of the time, do I have an agency which is coming up in the ecosystem who can maintain it for me and who can rent it out and I'll make a return on it so it pays for itself or more. So I think all these opportunities are still coming. We do believe that a lot of work has to be done also in the end-to-end trip planning, which is not just the planning and the booking, or when you're in trip.
Yeah.
We think now India is becoming the kind of market where people are finally saying, listen, I want to book that thing to do when I'm there. So travel has fundamentally shifted from I want to go here, tick off, to what are we going to do there? So experiences is becoming a big thing. Also, a lot of regional travel and cheap regional. So getting to places, as we know from low-cost carriers and all, even overseas has become cheap. So we have got into GCC in a big way, UAE already, and now bigger in GCC because there's a very natural spillover of our brand there through NRIs, but
Yeah.
we're getting into the local Emiratis also, local expats who live there. But in India, I think there's still a lot to be done in travel and related areas. Like Book My Forex was an acquisition, which is an earn-out kind of acquisition for us. Now, that's a very logical place. Fintech for travel is a logical place because, we probably have the most affluent, fertile audience on our platforms, which because everyone's looking to buy something which is significant.
Yeah.
Very often the average is 5,000 rupees. That's very different from all the other e-commerce platforms. What can you do about that? What can you do with the customer behavior that you know? A lot of work on the back end on machine learning through data science, obviously now AI. So I think a lot of organic investments. Inorganic, we'll continue to stay selective. We've been doing some big, some small. Corporate travel. It was an area we were not in, and now it's become such a big, we're the largest corporate travel company and the largest holiday package company also independently, competing with the offline people. And we think there's the best is again yet to come. SME or self-service corporate travel. So I think a lot out there. So transportation is like logical kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we are constantly looking, and I think Rajesh is the right person to talk about this.
Yeah, so so all the new pivots that Deep is
mentioned.
talking about, Rajesh, including things like getting into the visa business, for
Yes,
instance.
very much.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I mean, ironically, all these investments actually, or most of them happened during COVID.
Yeah.
So we decided to take few bets. I mean, in down cycle, I think our learning also is actually twofold. One,
But
of
you know,
course,
but that's what I want people to listen to carefully. You're saying at a time when your
Yes.
business was down 95%,
Yes.
where the world was going through a lockdown,
Yeah.
you decided this is the opportune moment to actually do something new, to try something different, and go out there and launch something different as well. I mean, what were you thinking?
yeah, I'll tell you
I
what
think
we
the
were
ad tech
thinking.
is you should
Yeah.
talk about
tech
that. That was
also
a
as well.
great one.
No, I actually think, I'll tell you the driving force underneath, what was driving that. So there were two parallel track going. One, of course, we had to just go back to the drawing board and fix the cost, as Deep was alluding earlier. To that, you have to figure out various, fixed costs that existed in the system. So we drove huge amount of automation. We had certainly 1,000 engineers who were available with us because BAU was not happening, right? Hardly any BAU was happening. But then the other parallel track and the driving sort of thought for that was that, now COVID is going to be unpredictable, and we didn't know the time of the COVID. And, we will, as you come out of COVID, and we were sure that we'll come out of COVID because we had some conviction, having dealt with some mini crisis in the past. This, of course, was mother of all the crises. That we will come out of it. There is no question that we will not come out of it. But when we come out of it, we would have lost time. We would have lost time because, one, the COVID time itself will be the lost time. And then to rebuild the whole business to get back to the same level of size and scale will also take some more time.
Yeah.
So then if we have to make it up, because just before COVID, we were just about to become fully profitable, right? So it was a complete setback. Now, when you come out of that, and then if you have to make up on the lost time, you had to look for new avenues.
Yeah.
And that was the sort of driving thought behind. So we started looking at many opportunities at that point, and we had resources at our disposal because,
They were not
like I
doing
said, they
anything
were
at
not
that
doing
point in
anything
time.
else, and we were not by any stretch of imagination to just cut back on them, right? So we didn't want to rationalize that because, we needed them eventually in any case. So we went back to the drawing board and we looked at corporate business. Was actually one business we had just about started prior to COVID. We accelerated that big time. We built our fintech platform called Trip Money. We built our advertisement platform internally, which is doing about 100 crore of revenue about 100 crore of revenue already. Large part of that is actually going into profits. We launched in GCC market in the middle of COVID. like we were in UAE because we built all that, the platform that we built was based out of India because all those engineers and the product guys who we had were redeployed there, right? And then we built our My Partner travel agent platform. So we built so many new platforms during that time. Now, all of them, then as we were rebuilding the business, our core B2C business, they started to add, new streams of revenue for us, new streams of profitability for us. And then once we were over sort of bringing the old business back on track, this new, streams of revenue or the businesses that we built started to add. Now, therefore, now at a scale also we were growing in the mid-20s and we were making profits. So it completely changed the game. So we didn't want to sort of lose on the time that we had lost. I think the number of projects that we ended up doing in those 2 years were probably in the best ever or the maximum ever that we would have
Also
ever
kept
done.
our people busy. Not to forget Arogya Setu.
Yeah,
That was
to
done.
forget Arogya Setu.
So that was another very exciting and obviously, not a monetary project. It was really, I think, our give back. But
How did that happen? Because I don't think people know the Make My Trip linked to Arogya Setu, and I mean most people have actually also forgotten about Arogya Setu, which is not necessarily a bad thing because we want to get past COVID, but want to learn the lessons from it. But how did Arogya Setu happen?
yeah, it's an amazing story, and I'll give it to you in short. So we had an engineer, senior engineer, Rahul Goyal, who had a brilliant idea, and he said, COVID had broken out. This was just before Holi of 2020, one day before. I remember that for a reason. And he said, boss, we can build a contact tracing way to figure out how this is spreading. And I said, are you serious? We had a chat. He's saying, yeah. And I said, write me a short note on WhatsApp because I'm going to send it to someone. And that someone was Amitabh Kant, our common friend, and obviously an amazing person. And I said, Amitabh, I think we can do this. And it'll be really helpful because things were just about breaking out. And he replied with Happy Holi on the message. And I said, okay. But in a few days, he called me back and he said, can you build that, what you said? I said, yeah, we can. He said, you sure? I said, absolutely. And he said, okay, go ahead, build it. So we started building it like with a small team, Rahul, another very senior guy, Vikalp, both of them, and then a team of engineers out of Bangalore, some guys from here. We started building it. I was program manager talking, and then it suddenly became a way to get approval, obviously, and actually a national scientific advisor at that point of time was involved, and then they were looking at 2 or 3 such platforms. So a couple of other companies, I think InMobi built something similar at that time, and someone else was building, and they did a lot of rigorous testing. This was Mr. Vijay Raghavan, and somebody finally said, okay, these guys, they're doing the right thing, and go ahead and build this. So we were very clear we were going to build it pro bono. This was our give back to the nation. We had almost 20 people working on it, and we were having calls every day with PMO, morning, evening, and they were very clear on how to do it. And it scaled up to 50 million users in 2 weeks because obviously government mandate, but it held on, never crashed. It was built so beautifully and well. And we were in the thick of it. I think we ran the project for about 3.5 months, a little over 100 days. And then we realized now, we need our engineers to do other stuff. We didn't want to make money out of it. So we actually handed it to the ministry. And that time it was the Ministry of, I'm forgetting who it was. The secretary was Mr. Ajay Bhushan. I'll come back to me. And then we just kind of, we're still there to help out. But then they took it over. But it was very satisfying. Yeah, it was really, really satisfying. The whole team got felicitated on Zoom. Couldn't meet anyone. But everyone got felicitated. They got
the days of Zoom celebrations and Zoom calls.
It was an amazing time.
Zoom
it was
calls
an amazing
that
time.
we would have done, the team Zoom calls.
But that also kept our people going.
Yeah.
So, I think that was the other challenge we had. How do we retain our good people? Because engineers were freaking out, and engineers, their skill was fungible. So they knew they can move to any industry, and we wanted to keep our key guys. Our travel guys, we knew won't go to any other place because everyone in travel was down and out. And they trusted us. but the fungible skills were and we did lose some people, obviously. Yeah.
But going back to the next 5, 10,
Yeah.
25
Yeah.
years. So what is the growth aspiration now as far as the business is concerned? At a group level, where do you believe you would like to see this? What are what are the big, bold bets that you're willing to make at this point in time?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know whether I can talk about the growth rate specifically. Do you know we are a listed company at this point in time and no future guidance,
Ballpark.
etc. But I'll give you directional trend.
Aspirational.
Of course. No, so I'll tell you directionally the way we are thinking about it. I think for the foreseeable future in the internet world, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, we think there is an opportunity for MakeMyTrip as a group to grow higher than the industry growth rate. Now, whether it is 1.5x of the industry growth rate or 2x, time will only tell.
Yeah.
But let's say the industry growth rate is X, then we will definitely be higher than that. And that is likely to be across all the businesses, even the matured businesses that we have. The other, places where we see an opportunity, where there is under penetration, where those are younger businesses, relatively low base, the opportunity is higher. Even the growth rate is going to be higher. So I'll give you a few. Like I think Deep was mentioning earlier, overall eco business still is under penetrated in India, but also the international business.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to come at the cost of domestic market, because the size of the domestic market is also really, really high, whether it is international flights or international hotels. Within the overall eco business is also alternative accommodation, because there's so much of new supply coming into the market of the villas, the hostels, the homestays, huge. And that's going to sort of drive the new wave of growth as well. If you look at the corporate business that we got in, really younger business, growing at about 40% year on year, huge market. If you look at the total size of the pie, the corporate business is about 30% of the total pie, and we just have small share of that. So we will continue to keep scaling that business up. Activities and experiences in destination activities and experiences, another new bet that we are taking. We are also looking to bring, by the way, cruises on our platform. So, I think the vision, which was always there, that we want to be one-stop shop for all the travel needs. Now, we including all the ancillaries, whatever, whether it is Forex or it is visas or the consumer loan, or, you want curated, holidays, or you want a la carte booking, all modes of transport. We recently invested in intercity cab use case in Savari as well. And we think that on the back of infrastructure improvement that is happening in the country, the road infrastructure particularly, that is going to be another space, because it's really fragmented at this point in time. So if you look at all of this put together, whether it's international or the overall accommodation, alternative accommodation experiences, the holidays business, the corporate business, the plate is frankly full. And then not to forget about, now expanding UAE, GCC sort of business from UAE to KSA as well. And, and by the way, I just wanted to also share, and Les talked about the Redbus business, our overall ground transport business. In fact, the Redbus management team, Prakash, who's the CEO there, is overseeing the overall ground transport business for us. That playbook we have actually taken to the international destinations already, just the bus booking platform. We are already the market leader in Malaysia and Singapore. And we are investing in places like Indonesia and Vietnam, and we are also in Latin America there, right? Believe it or not. So we want to take that playbook. So the international playbook is going to be limited. Let's say Redbus, that international playbook, and the OTA market is going to be regional to start with. And we don't really want to completely change it to become like a global platform. The new thing that we've done, and that is to cater to the Indian diaspora market globally, is to become GDPR compliant. So we are now, accessible at 150 countries. And now anywhere to anywhere booking can happen. But, the way we are trying to position it, to first organically get all the Indian diaspora, which is spread out. Because I think it's a very big opportunity there as well. And we'll get that organically, because MakeMyTrip brand is popular with Indians, right? So when they come here, they're all our customers, and we're going to use that. And talking about customers, by the way, the other thing that we should have mentioned perhaps was also, the high point for us is about 80 million customers who've transacted with us. right? You know, a lot
Over
of
the
the
course of the year.
over the course. This is
Yeah.
the live to date,
Oh, live,
yeah,
live to date
live.
customers. You know, and every year we will have about 121 million bookings. You know, it's about 20 million customers, right? So, you know, literally about some 230 bookings a day, about 4,000 people every, not day, 230 bookings a minute,
minute.
and about 4,000 people on platform every minute, like all three brands put together. So that's the kind of scale, but it's not all, because, you know, if you look at the overall e-commerce category,
Yeah.
you have you know, that's a growing population, about
Yeah.
250 million to 300 million, right? So I think if you try to sort of see big picture with all of this,
Yeah.
the outlook looks quite positive to me.
Well, you know, I want to pick up on the pet peeve that we've often spoken about, Deep, and that is, how do you get more inbound traffic to India? We've talked about the outbound opportunity. I mean, Indians are traveling abroad like never before, between Vietnam and Thailand, and of course Europe and the US, and all of that continues. But you know, what are you seeing there in terms of the outbound trend? But more importantly, how do we draw in inbound traffic? You know, Singapore, Thailand, they're in double digits as far as, you know, 16 million, 30 million, and so on and so forth. We're still under 3 million today.
Yeah, a pure tourist, if you look at that number, it's abysmal. And Shireen, yeah, wearing the industry hat, clearly India has so much to offer. We all know it, right? India's got probably as a country more to offer than maybe any other country. If you look at culture and heritage and history and, you know, just scenic beauty,
Food.
anything, whatever, food.
Yeah.
And, you know, Markham just reminded us of what all we can offer. I think the reasons are multiple, but at a very base level, if you really look at it like Maslow's pyramid, I think the first thing we have to address is safety and hygiene. I think we have to be perceived, and we'll only be perceived if we are a very safe place to travel for everyone, including particularly women travelers. So I think we all know there have been enough incidents, they keep happening. That has to stop. Otherwise, what happens, people, we'll have two kind of tourists. We'll have the super rich tourists who come and have the 5-star premium holiday, rose tinted glasses, blah blah blah. They go see everything. They don't really feel India, but they're seeing a very sanitized India. Or you have the backpacker who's out in the hills and doing whatever they're doing, coming from wherever, etc. That's so you don't have the classic middle class, because when that classic middle class Caucasian family is looking for a holiday, India is not, they want to go to India, but they have too many concerns. They're saying, is it clean? Is it safe? Will I get sick? So many people get sick because they go and eat street food. And when they have street food, even we guys can't now stomach it. So I think we need something around safety and hygiene. At the next level, we just don't have enough rooms. That's the reality. You said it for domestic, how expensive things are. They're even more expensive when people are coming inbound. So I think that's a big concern. People are saying we have a budget, we are ready to spend maybe, you know,
But is it just a supply issue? I mean, or
course
is
it's
it
a
also a tax related issue? Is it also price gouging? I mean, what are we talking
well,
about
tax
here?
takes it up further,
Yeah.
but it's a supply issue. Also, inbound, please be clear, people will only come for 4 to 6 months of the year. If you want to go to Kerala, it's probably 2 months of the year. Otherwise, it's so hot. But the rest of the time, people will, you know, so 5-6 months to come to India. Those are the peak months. It's super expensive. On top of that, you know, the GST is not cheap. So everything really piles up. Yes, we have e-visa now, but people who fill the e-visa, they still say that you got to do a lot of hoops. It's not that easy. So I think we have hurdles along the way, and we should solve this problem the same way as we solve other. Get to the root cause, address that. You will need to probably have a lot more, you know, projects are coming up for hotels or open new circuits. The Buddhist circuit's a great example. It's full up all the time. There are new flights. So I think where we've done tremendously well is infrastructure. So just new airports, and therefore you have a lot more connectivity by plane. I think our highways, our expressways are fantastic. Our last mile, I will not speak about, but the highways are phenomenal today. I mean, any expressway that you take. So I think we've done a great job of getting how to get there, but where to stay and what to do. The biggest lament, and I think it's just about getting fixed. I had some inbound, like non-resident Indian and foreigner family visiting, And they went to Agra and they actually saw a lovely show. They stayed back and they saw a lovely show in the evening, which is quite new apparently. And I haven't seen it because the common refrain for hoteliers in Agra was no one stays.
Yeah.
People come in the morning. It's so quick, so
See
easy
the
to get
Taj
to
and exit.
see the
Yeah.
Taj and exit. But
Yeah.
there's much more, but they'll stay if there's something to do. So I think we've got to think holistically from the tourist point of view. How do we make that circuit more engaging? Things to do in the evening. And I think we see that wherever we go.
But
I
is
mean,
the experience space going to be something that you look at as Make My Trip?
so, we will market, we will promote, we will sell.
But you won't get into it.
We are not, that's not our skill set. We're just not, I don't think that's what we are. And there are enough people who are very good at that. Like, who will do that? It'll be the same people who are local operators on the ground. But I think the signals are there and we will help them promote it. So if a new thing comes up, like, we would love to talk about it and promote it because that just helps us also. It's again a win-win. It helps us promote more, it helps the tourists, it helps everybody. So I think India will have to take this very seriously about new circuits and how to enjoy these places in a different way. Definitely many more hotels, and therefore zoning and more incentives to set up hotels, and rationalization of tax. We've spoken about that many times. This is not a luxury good any longer. I think people, like, you've got to, I think you'll make more if you have
Bring down the taxes.
bring down a tax, but just have a much larger base.
And it does have a multiplier impact as well as far as the economy is concerned.
Huge.
Yeah. And jobs specifically.
It is. We should have spoken about that, but I know we do too. It is the biggest job contributor, job producer in the country as an industry, over 10%. And AI proof largely, because in hospitality, people will be there. You need them. And the trickle down or the multiplier effect to artisans, to food and beverage, where you go to guides, to local communities, is huge. So I think tourism potential, which I think this budget, there was serious talk around it. So we're very hopeful that.
I think there's one more thing that maybe we can also do, like as a country, if I draw a parallel, since you mentioned about outbound. So when I see some of the countries, whether it's Singapore or Thailand, or let's say even the Saudi Arabia is actually a big example, they're spending huge amount of money. They do a very good job. They come to us, for example, and we have a tie-up with pretty much all the tourism boards in the world to promote tourism. They take it very, very seriously because I think the underneath driver for them is that India is a very big source market that you see. It's a very targeted sort of marketing drive because India is a source market for them. So now, if we have to do the opposite, let's say we have to sell India as a destination country.
So bring back Incredible India in a targeted fashion.
What a great campaign, but also go out to the local online and offline people over there and go and market with them. Because today also a lot of the business moved online. So who's the Make My Trip equivalent in Germany or in Spain or whoever, and talk to them and say, listen, how can we promote it?
They have the traffic, right? They have the high intent travel traffic, so you create awareness. So I think we have to up the game there as well. And then of course, last but not the least is the visa. Right, because visa and connectivity. See, connectivity we already have. Like, there are many flights that are
just ease out the friction
it's just
point.
They ease out the friction point.
And
right?
on digital, we've done a great deal for domestic travelers. I think we all use Digi Yatra, and my God, it's great. Or the FTII coming back, like now leaving and coming, your passport doesn't get stamped. It works like a charm. So, hats off to those initiatives. I think now, even for foreigners who come back, facial recognition, like if you've been to Dubai once, you never need to show your passport again because they've got you, they know you're coming back. I think Singapore's the same, Saudi's moving the same way. We are way ahead in this. We should use it even for foreign tourists and open it up for a lot more people.
I want to address the regulation issue, Deep. And through the course of the last 25 years, you've had your run-ins with regulators and with regulation, whether it's the CCI or other agencies. 2016 perhaps was the lowest point as far as dealing with regulation and regulators was concerned for you. As you look at what's happening today, do you believe that there is a need for greater engagement with regulators to really understand the nuances of what it takes to run e-commerce businesses, digital businesses, and understanding of creating regulations that are necessary to put the guardrails in place, but also there isn't a sort of overreach. What's the thinking on that front? And is it difficult today?
I think it's a rhetorical question, absolutely. And we've spoken about it, and we've obviously had our fair share, like almost all companies. And happy to say, service tax case went on for a long time, came out finally, won the case, but takes a lot of energy and takes a lot of time and,
What,
and
almost
money and just
almost
7 years.
7 years?
7 years and a lot of distraction to the business, and it was actually baseless because I guess the way it's structured, the powers that be who can come and ask you all kinds of questions, whatever they can do, probably don't have that full understanding. So you also answered it in your question. I think a lot more working together, explaining the business model, how come how these models are working. Are they very different? In some cases, yes, from traditional models to understand, but the fact is that these are contributing a lot to the economy, paying a lot in taxes, giving a lot of employment. So please understand this new sector and let's figure out a smart way. Like you explain what is required, and we will explain what the companies are going to do. And then, so at least the way, the overreach is definitely
But that was a
cut
shock
back.
to the system, wasn't
Yeah,
it? I mean,
yeah,
you
I
actually
think,
had a situation where one of your senior employees
Yeah.
was put behind bars
Yeah.
on account of this.
yeah, 3 nights. Yeah. It was a low point for sure, but it's happy to say that came out of it stronger. But this is happening all around, and I think it's just because if there was better understanding, it would be better.
And across sectors, not just specific to the
Oh
travel
yeah,
sector.
oh yeah. I think it's more about
E-commerce in
new.
general,
I think it's
digital.
more about not so much about travel. It's more about the new economy.
Yeah.
How the new economy works. Yeah, I think it's important.
I think it might be, just maybe one of the areas. I mean, there's a lot of engagement. I mean, bearing industry there's a lot of engagement of late is happening. So I don't think I'm to be fair, but maybe there is need not to deviate from the fundamentals of the law as well, right? So let us say whether it is consumers are the same consumers, whether they are
Online
e-commerce
or
consumers
offline.
or offline consumers. Products and services that are being serviced or sold are the same products. They're not very different. The concept of businesses, the monopolies, or whatever, or data privacy, etc., are not very different, right? I mean, at the core of it, whether it is related to privacy or if it is related to any particular law around whether it is direct taxes or indirect taxes, they revolve around products and services, and they're not really different. So if we don't end up looking at e-commerce companies or the industry in silo, but go back to the fundamentals and see if there are any tweaks and amendments that are required, might be the better way to go about it, rather than just thinking about that there is a whole bunch of legislations or the new rules that have to come in only for the e-commerce companies.
Yeah.
It doesn't make fundamental sense to me. I mean, there will be areas where you would need, because those businesses did not exist, right? Whether it's a gaming company or any other companies, right? But guess what? In many ways, the lottery businesses existed in the past, etc. So some of those principles we should not necessarily deviate from.
Right.
And if we are trying to bring all of that together and then come up with that, and there has to be some amendment, some regulation will have to come in, which is fine, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think, I mean, since we are talking about it, and the reason why we came out of it winning from that specific case was also, and that I think is the learning and maybe the piece of advice for all the young entrepreneurs as well, is to make sure that you fundamentally focus on building and doing the right thing within the frame of law as well, right? Because the reason why, and we obviously went through a lot of challenges around it on that particular specific case, but the reason why we came out of it winning, because we were doing the right thing at the end of the day. So not cut corners, don't do anything silly.
Yeah.
That's something that you should not necessarily do, even for the gray areas, right? So I think as long as you end up sort of doing your part and then engaging with the regulators and government to create awareness, to Deep's point, because it's a new area, and everybody has to sort of come up to speed with that, and then come out collectively with and not deviating from the fundamental core principles that you have, and taking a silo approach, and we might be able to sort of deal with this better.
Deep, you're now playing the role of chairman. So you're the big daddy at Make My Trip, but you're also the big daddy for the startup ecosystem, having seen this system change and evolve and grow and deepen over the last 25 years. So one, like, what's the new role entail for you? I mean, how hands on are you, or how hands off are you at this point in time? And also, like, what do you make of what's happening within the startup ecosystem? What's exciting you? What are you looking forward to seeing next?
Yeah, from young Turk to not so young Turk to now you're
To
saying
Big Daddy.
the moniker Big Daddy. I don't like that, but anyway, yeah, 25 years. So I think we all grow up. Yeah, I went non-executive 2 years ago, and I still chair the board. I'm involved with a couple of things officially, like the sustainability stuff is something which is my charter. Rajesh, again, my understanding is wherever he wants me, he calls me in. So a lot of the people issues, people stuff, I like to be involved. He calls me in. Some of the marketing, they bounce off some things. I always tell them at their own peril. So when they're going to ask me for my comments, it's going to come unfiltered. So there's always stuff. But yeah, I would say about broadly a quarter of my time is still on MMT stuff. I stay on top of the emails. We have lumpy days. So some days we're like super busy. We had a full-blown strategy meet the other day. We had a really long day, or board meeting sometimes outstation, etc. So I think that's roughly the time. The rest of the time, actually spending a lot of time with the new, with younger entrepreneurs, largely mentoring. Investment for me is more like through funds. I just find it a better way. So don't mix up. So very happy through TIE, which is another body, or independently just meet young entrepreneurs. Try to help them not make the same mistakes I made. So many of them. So tell them, listen, whatever I can see. So some I engage for longer periods if they need help, or sometimes you just meet once or twice or whatever it is. But yeah, if I'm in town, I do meet a couple of entrepreneurs or a couple of students, like one student, one entrepreneur a day. I have some long-standing mentees.
One thing we don't know about Deep, I mean, if we were to do a poll on Deep, I mean, I've never heard anybody say, I've always heard people only say he's the nicest guy. He's one of the nicest people that we've ever had the opportunity to meet or work with. So
why is that a problem?
That I'm not saying, I said that part we know about Deep. What do we not know about Deep, Rajesh?
I don't know whether, a lot of the people, if you would ask in Make My Trip, they will say he's also a perfectionist. He was alluding to that, and he's saying the feedback is going to come to you unfiltered. That is what...
Annoyingly perfection.
And where it is going to come from is actually because he always wants the best, right? So it's not 9 out of 10, it is almost close to perfect 10, right? So I think he himself has said that it could be painful sometimes because, and I know sometimes I hear that from my own family also.
Experience.
Firsthand for me, it's actually because I'm almost the same, right? So
I think the rest face the brunt.
The rest face
So
the
two
brunt.
perfectionists driving things.
The devil's in the detail, I always believe.
Exactly.
Or the right way, probably God's in the detail. And, I think for all of the stuff we do, and, you're the same, Shireen. Like, I think the customer today is very fastidious, has lots of choices. So you better get it right. And it becomes a company culture. So internally, if you're loosely writing stuff and all, then before you know it, it's out there. And every now and then I'll see some slide with something which is wrong, and really, like, how can you put it out there? Tomorrow it seeps into our product and content. The other day, someone showed screenshots of it on our strategy meet 2 days ago. And I'm telling Rajesh, and I wrote that straight. I took a picture, sent it. I said, that doesn't read right at all, guys. Someone needs to proofread because it just shows poorly. And maybe 99% of customers won't get it today, but we have to worry about the most discerning 1% of customers.
I'm going to end by asking both of you life lessons. Deep, I'll start with you. What is it that drives you? What is it that keeps you going? What is it that inspires you today? And also, importantly, what do you do to kind of decompress and keep yourself alive outside of work?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. But I think for me, the driver for the business has always been non-financial. And it's always been, how do we build a business where every customer can become a brand ambassador? We're not there yet, but that's my overarching vision. And I keep reminding everyone, that's when we can say we've really arrived. Otherwise, we're still on the journey. We're still making it happen. So that for me has always been the big one. So it's around the customer. There's no other thing. Internal customer, external customer, partners, that's it. But everyone should be saying, yes, Make My Trip adds value to me. Any of our brands, they keep adding value. It's a great experience. And there are companies like that. There are products like that. You know, Apple till some time back was like that. They might be losing their way, but there are companies like that. And so the wow is very important for me on the customer delight. And yeah, I think for me, it's, I do yoga, not half as good as you, as I've seen now. But I do try to do some form of physical exercise every day. I do meditate a bit. And I tried to switch off. Even when I was full-time till 2 years ago, I would always find time, like if I come back, try to switch off. I'm not a slave to the email. Like I check email far too less maybe. And even WhatsApps. I mean, I can't keep up with WhatsApp now. But like I just do as much as I can. And now I've just learned not to sweat the small stuff. So it's okay. Like, yeah, whatever. Podcasts, by the way, are my thing to do.
Really?
So, yeah, I'm huge on Audible and Spotify and podcasts. So, and now this one. So this is going to be,
listening is
listening
a
has
big,
become,
listening and
become
learning.
huge for me. One business one acquired for me. Leisure nowadays, I'm tripping on the Empire, which is just so fantastic. Both Anita and then William Dalrymple, they're incredible. But then also for health, my son got me onto Huberman, so that's interesting. So different stuff, but I just find it like a very relaxing way. So go on a long walk and do that. If you're on a long drive being driven, you can do that. I just find it fantastic, yeah.
What about you, Rajesh?
Well, on business front, it's not very different. I mean, it's got to be the same if you're thinking and focusing on building long-term businesses, right? So fundamentally, it has to be, whether it is customers or partners or people, just making sure. Only the additional thing that sort of drives me is also that whatever you do, it has to be impactful, at the end, right? It has to have some impact. You're making some difference to someone or some business, right? So that actually is very satisfying at the end. And then, like we spoke about it earlier, the most satisfying part always is that, you end up delivering the business, whatever was the goal or the business, strategies. And then you see everyone around you very happy, including the ecosystem. So I think that's the most satisfying part. Personally, outside of business, which is very little time, frankly. But
You're not as lucky as Deep is, huh?
but
I can only be lucky because he was ready
Because
to
he's
run
doing
it.
the work.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was very clear.
but I'm still enjoying, right? So I'm having fun at work, because we have a great environment there. But whatever time that I do find, and I do find for myself, whether it's early morning or weekends, is to play a sport. Right. So that's my go-to place. I haven't been able to take on. My wife does yoga like Deep does, and you do. But I haven't been able to, except COVID. COVID, I had no choice. I had to learn yoga from her because you had to do something.
Rajesh is a really good cricketer and badminton player.
That's what the athlete mentality comes from.
Yeah.
But, I'll end by asking the two of you, what is the secret of an enduring friendship?
Yeah. Touch wood is the thing. I think it's trust and transparency. And we said it, I guess we alluded to it up front. So I think transparency is the key, complete honesty. And it is what it is. And I think respect for each other's skills. And so I think if you're open, transparent, you don't keep secrets, and especially at work and even otherwise. I mean, at work, definitely. I mean, you have to be an open book. You have to tell when things are, whatever's going on. And so we are really also, over the years, like you would imagine, become good friends. Families are friends. You know what's happening. Because if there's something going on in your personal life, it's going to impact in your, and it's impossible that things won't happen in your personal life. So I think to be able to share that and to, just depend on each other, to cover in, to check in for each other whenever, and all kinds of stuff. Trust me, a lot has happened in these 25 years. And so he's probably my 911.
He's your wingman?
Yeah, always. Yeah. He's actually my emergency contact besides my brother and a few others. So he's an emergency contact, yeah.
So how often do you lean on Deep for...
Actually, all the time. And I must tell you, all the time, absolutely. And forget the business stuff and the work stuff. That, in any case, we discuss pretty much every day. Maybe off late, little less, not every day. But that is all the time. But personal front. I mean, I've told that to Deep many times, that if there is anything to do about family, about personal, he's actually my go-to man, besides the family, right? So always for advice.
What's been the best piece of advice he's given you?
Well, it's not one, it's plenty of them all the time, right?
Become CEO and run the business. best year
Was-
ever.
was-
Best year ever. So clearly, yeah, full time. He didn't want me to go. By the way,
Yeah.
another thing probably people don't know. I
Yeah.
wanted to do this at 50.
Huh.
I wanted to change gears and impact and give back and move to the next stage
Yeah.
of life. And he just didn't let me. He's the reason. The board I would have convinced. He said,
Yeah.
no, one more year, don't.
Huh.
We are doing it
Yeah.
fine.
Huh.
That time he was CEO and I was full-time executive chairman and maybe overseeing the other
Yeah.
companies. And I said, there's so much overlap, Rajesh.
Yeah.
He said, one more year.
Mm.
And that year is when COVID happened.
Mm.
So I wanted to do it when I turned 50. That was in 2019. Before we knew it, that one more year meant COVID. So in a way, glad because we were both needed. We had hands on the deck, this thing. And then 1 year after COVID, I said, Rajesh, like, I'm serious, but I'm around.
Huh.
And we would do this religious catch up. Like we would have this 1 hour long walk and sometimes 2 hour long walk, catch up on everything. So I think if a few days go by and we haven't caught up on, we will. So we'll find a way. And luckily we stay next door. So we spend a lot of time together.
Yeah. No, there was a selfish reason for that. When I would tell him, because from his point of view, his thing was that, listen, I've got few things that I want to focus as well at the end of the day. And, besides the overlap and stuff, right? So, which it didn't really bother me a lot. But I think it was just him being around, right?
Yeah.
It was just that.
So I
Right?
promised him I was still around.
Yes.
Not very much there. So it's worked out. It's worked out. But I think I have to say, I think now that you showed me the old Young Turks we did.
Yes.
And you and so Shireen and CNBC, you might be our good luck charm. So
I-
you've seen us through thick and thin. And I officially want to thank you for being a huge supporter through our toughest times.
Absolutely.
So, we recall that and don't forget when people, help out when in the tough times. So thank you for that.
No, but thank you
Yeah.
for being on Young Turks over the course of the last 25 years. And we wish you both more success, not just with work, but outside of that.
Thank
And
you.
Deep, I'm
Thank you.
waiting to see what you do at 60 because clearly
Yeah.
you've got something big lined up. But we look forward to having that conversation as well. But wish you both the very, very
Thank
best of
you.
luck. And we hope the next 25 years do bring more to come as far as Make My Trip is concerned and even bigger and better. So thanks very much.
Thank
for
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Lovely.
Well, with
Wonderful.
that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of the Young Turks Reloaded podcast. From all of us here on the team, thanks very much for watching.